I was so excited about my recent promotion and couldn't wait to share the news with my husband, Mark, and his mother, Mrs. Davis, on our third wedding anniversary. But what happened next completely changed everything. Instead of celebrating, I was met with anger so intense it left me in shock. In an instant, Mark stood up and slapped me across the face, leaving me stunned, hurt, and confused. At that moment, something inside me snapped. I knew I had to get out of this toxic relationship, but revenge was also on my mind. Within weeks, my life would change in ways I never expected. What happened next will leave you speechless. My name is Sandra, and I'm a financial analyst living in Houston, Texas. Life can change so quickly. I thought everything was going according to plan, that my life was perfect, but on the night of my third wedding anniversary, everything changed. I remember that evening clearly. The sun was setting, casting a warm light over the city, and I was filled with excitement. I had just been promoted at work, something I had worked hard for. I was eager to share this news with Mark and Mrs. Davis during our anniversary dinner. I imagined celebration, smiles, maybe even a toast for my achievement. The restaurant was beautiful, with soft lighting and quiet conversations around us. I felt grateful for the surroundings and the company. Mark had always been my biggest supporter, or so I thought. He smiled at me, clearly waiting for me to share my news. Mark, Mrs. Davis, I said, heart racing. I've been promoted to senior financial analyst. I expected congratulations, cheers, or at least some kind of positive response, but instead, there was silence. Mrs. Davis's face turned cold, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Is this what we raised him for? She snapped, her voice dripping with disdain. For his wife to have a better career? I was stunned. I had hoped for pride or happiness, but instead, it felt like I had done something wrong. Mark shifted uncomfortably, caught between his mother and me. Mom, it's great news for Sandra. We should celebrate her success, he said, but his voice lacked strength. Mrs. Davis didn't agree. What about starting a family, Sandra? Do you think a promotion is more important than having children? Her words cut deep, and I felt angry. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I believe I can balance both my career and family, Mrs. Davis. This promotion is important to me. Mark looked down at the table, avoiding my eyes. Sandra, maybe we should think about what Mom is saying, he said, sounding distant. My heart sank. This wasn't the supportive husband I had believed I married. I can't just quit my job to meet your mother's expectations, I said, keeping my voice steady. I deserve respect for my hard work. The tension in the air grew. I could feel the eyes of other diners on us. Mark looked frustrated. You're being unreasonable, Sandra. You're my wife, not my rival. Why can't you understand that? His words were like a slap to the face, even worse than any physical hit. This isn't a competition, Mark. I just want to share my success with you, I said, my voice trembling, fighting back tears. Mrs. Davis leaned in, her eyes sharp. You need to think about what's best for our family, not just your career. I felt trapped. This is who I am, and I won't give it up, not for anyone. I said these words with anger and desperation. I was fighting not just for my job, but for my sense of self. Mark suddenly stood up, his frustration clear. You don't get it, do you? You're putting your career above everything else. Marriage is about sacrifice. I could see how much his mother had influenced him, twisting his idea of marriage into something suffocating. I had always thought we were a team, but now I felt like I didn't belong. Sacrifice doesn't mean losing yourself, I replied, heat rising in my face. I deserve to have my dreams too. The argument reached its peak, and in a shocking moment, Mark slapped me across the face. The sound of the slap echoed through the restaurant, and everything went silent. I fell to the floor, shocked and confused. I couldn't believe it. My heart raced, and the sting on my cheek felt worse than the physical pain. The worst pain was knowing that the man I loved had betrayed me. As I lay on the floor, tears streaming down my face, I realized this was the turning point. The trust one had in Mark was gone in an instant, and I knew I couldn't stay in this toxic environment. I got up, my heart pounding, filled with a new sense of determination. I wouldn't let this define me. I would reclaim my life. What started as an exciting evening had turned into chaos. As I looked at Mark and Mrs. Davis, I understood that this wasn't just an argument, it was a wake-up call. I needed to make a change, to break free from everyone's expectations, and start living for myself. As I walked out of the restaurant, a mix of anger, fear, and hope swirled inside me. It was time to take control of my future. I left the restaurant, feeling lost and overwhelmed. The cool night air hit my face, bringing me back to reality. I couldn't believe what had just happened. I felt humiliated, not just by Mark's actions, but by how the whole evening turned out. It was supposed to be a celebration, but it had turned into a nightmare. As I drove home, I couldn't stop replaying everything that had just happened. How did it all go so wrong? The man I loved had hit me, and his mother's influence seemed to have turned him against me. I thought about our life together, the dreams we had shared, and felt completely lost, like a ship without a course, drifting in a storm. When I got home, the silence hit me hard. It felt like the walls were closing in. I dropped my keys on the table and sat down, still in shock. The quiet was overwhelming, and all I could hear was my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I looked at my phone, hoping for a message from Mark, an apology, a sign that he cared, but there was nothing. I called Rachel, my close friend and colleague, desperate for someone to talk to. After a few rings, she picked up. "Sandra, is everything okay?" she asked, her voice full of concern. "No, Rachel, it's not okay. You won't believe what just happened," I said, my voice shaky. "What happened? Are you okay?" she pressed. I took a deep breath, trying to hold it together. I told Mark and Mrs. Davis about my promotion at our anniversary dinner, and it all went wrong. Mrs. Davis freaked out, and then Mark, he hit me. There was a long silence. "Oh my God, Sandra, are you okay? Are you hurt?" she asked, her voice full of panic. "I'm fine physically, but emotionally, I don't know," I replied, my voice breaking. "It feels like everything I thought I knew about our marriage has fallen apart." "You need to get out of that situation," Rachel said, her voice firm. "You don't deserve to be treated like that." "I know, but it's complicated. We've been together for years, and I thought we were happy," I explained, my voice cracking. "People can change, especially under pressure. You need to think about what's best for you now," Rachel said, her tone encouraging. As I listened to her, something inside me clicked. I had given up so much for this relationship, and now I was left feeling lost, broken. "I think I need to talk to a divorce lawyer," I said, the words feeling strange, but also freeing. "Do it, I'll be with you every step of the way," Rachel reassured me. "You deserve to be happy." After we hung up, I felt a mix of fear and strength. The thought of making such a big decision scared me, but it also made me feel powerful. I knew it was time to take control of my life. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy heart, but also a clearer mind. I called a divorce lawyer Rachel had recommended. It was a step I had to take. "Hello, my name is Sandra. I need to file for divorce," I said as soon as the call connected. "Understood. Can you come in this afternoon to discuss the details?" the attorney responded. "Yes, I'll be there," I said, feeling a sense of determination. I was taking control of my life, one step at a time. At work, I tried my best to stay focused, but I could feel the weight of the events from the night before hanging over me. My boss, Mr. Roberts, noticed I seemed distracted during the morning meeting. "Sandra, is everything all right? You seem a bit off today," he asked, his voice gentle. "I'm dealing with some personal stuff, but I'll manage," I replied, forcing a smile. "You know you can talk to me if you need to," he said, offering me support. "Thank you, Mr. Roberts. I really appreciate it," I said, feeling grateful to have someone who cared. Later that day, Rachel surprised me by bringing lunch. "I thought you could use a break," she said, sitting down across from me. "How did the meeting with the attorney go?" "I haven't gone yet," I admitted. "I'm nervous about what's coming next." "Take it one day at a time. You're stronger than you think, Sandra," she reassured me. Her words gave me a small spark of hope. As the day went on, I tried to focus on my work to keep my mind off everything. I buried myself in numbers and spreadsheets, anything to distract myself from the emotional turmoil I was feeling. Finally, it was time for my meeting with the attorney. I took a deep breath before walking into her office, my heart pounding. The attorney, a kind woman named Karen, greeted me with a warm smile. "Let's get started," Karen said, her tone both professional and compassionate. "Tell me what's been going on." I shared my story with her, detailing the emotional and physical struggles I had endured. As I spoke, I felt a sense of empowerment. I wasn't just a victim anymore, I was taking control of my life. "Sandra, it sounds like you've made the right choice. You deserve to be in a healthy, supportive environment," Karen said, her words deeply resonating with me. After the meeting, I left the office with a mix of anxiety and excitement. I had taken a significant step in reclaiming my life. The road ahead would be tough, but I was ready. I was no longer going to be defined by anyone else's expectations. I would find my strength and my freedom. The weeks after the anniversary dinner were full of emotional ups and downs. After meeting with Karen, I began the difficult process of untangling my life from Mark's. Each day felt like a battle between fear and determination. At work, I focused on proving myself, not just to my colleagues, but to myself, especially with my recent promotion. Mr. Roberts continued to check in on me. "Sandra, you're doing excellent work. If you ever need to talk, I'm here," he said one afternoon. "Thanks, Mr. Roberts. Your support means a lot," I replied, feeling grateful. One evening, Rachel texted me, "Let's celebrate your new beginning. Drinks this weekend?" Her message brought a smile to my face. I needed this, an escape, a chance to feel normal again. "Absolutely, I could use some fun," I replied, excited for the distraction. That Saturday, we met at a lively bar downtown. The energy of the place was contagious, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me as I walked in. Rachel waved from a corner table, and I joined her, feeling the weight of the past few weeks begin to lift. "Cheers to new beginnings," Rachel said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings," I echoed, clinking my glass with hers. We spent the evening talking about work, my promotion, and the future. I shared my plan to start a mentorship program for young women in finance. "I want to help them navigate challenges like I've faced," I explained. "That's a brilliant idea. You'd be an amazing mentor," Rachel encouraged. As the night went on, I felt lighter, more like myself. The laughter and connection with Rachel helped reignite my spirit. The following week, I met with Helen, a contact in the industry who had invited me to speak at a conference. "I'm so glad you decided to join us, Sandra. Your story will inspire so many," she said as we settled into a cafe. "I hope so. I want to empower others to find their voice," I replied, feeling determined. As the conference approached, I carefully prepared my speech, weaving in the lessons I'd learned. The night before, I practiced in front of the mirror, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. On the day of the conference, as I stepped onto the stage, the weight of the moment hit me. The room was full of women, all eager to hear what I had to say. My heart raced, but as I began to speak, a sense of purpose filled me. "I stand here today as a survivor, someone who has faced the storm and emerged stronger," I began. I shared my journey, and the audience responded with understanding and encouragement. "I know what it's like to feel trapped, to think your dreams don't matter, but your voice matters, and you deserve to pursue your passions," I said, the conviction in my words growing with each sentence. When I finished, the applause was overwhelming, and a rush of emotions flooded over me. Women approached me afterward, sharing their own stories and thanking me for my honesty. It was then that I realized I wasn't alone in my struggles, and that realization filled me with hope. In the days that followed, I threw myself into planning my mentorship program. I reached out to local universities, eager to connect with young women who were ready to carve their own paths in finance. The project breathed new life into me. I wasn't just Sandra anymore, defined by someone else's expectations. I was Sandra, the mentor, the leader, and a voice for change. As I thrived professionally, Mark's attempts to reconnect continued. His calls and texts came, filled with regret, but I ignored them. I knew I needed to protect myself. To move forward, I was learning to set boundaries and prioritizing my well-being over everything else. One evening, I received a message from Laura, a mutual friend. "Mark's been asking about you. He says he regrets everything," she wrote. "It's too late for that," I replied, my heart heavy but resolute. I had moved on, and I was ready for whatever came next. As the months passed, I found my footing in this new chapter of my life. My mentorship program gained momentum, and I started connecting with young women eager to make their mark in finance. I felt a sense of purpose I hadn't experienced in a long time. I was no longer just a survivor, I was thriving. One Saturday, I hosted the first meeting of the program at a local cafe. As I looked around at the eager faces of the participants, I felt a rush of excitement. "Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad you're here," I began. "Today we'll share our stories and discuss the challenges we face in our careers." The conversations that followed were vibrant and heartfelt. Each woman opened up about her journey, and I realized just how powerful our connections could be. I wasn't just telling my story anymore, I was helping others find their voices too. After the meeting, a young woman named Mia approached me. "Thank you for creating this space. I've been struggling to find my place in this industry," she said, her eyes filled with gratitude. "That's exactly why I started this program," I replied, smiling. "You belong here, and we'll support each other." With each meeting, I grew more confident in my role as a mentor. I also began to explore new opportunities for myself. Helen invited me to speak at another conference, and I eagerly accepted. This time, I felt more empowered than nervous. I was no longer just sharing my struggles, I was sharing my victories, too. As I prepared for my speech, I reflected on how far I had come. I wasn't the woman who had been slapped in front of family or trapped in a toxic relationship anymore. I was Sandra, a woman who had risen from the ashes and was determined to make a difference. The day of the conference arrived, and as I stepped onto the stage, I felt the familiar flutter of nerves, but they were accompanied by excitement. Today, I want to talk about resilience and the power of community. Together, we can overcome anything, I began. The applause that followed was overwhelming. I realized I wasn't just speaking to an audience, I was connecting with them. My pain had transformed into strength, and I was using it to uplift others. On the drive home, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. My past was still a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I was building a life on my own terms, filled with purpose and hope. Whatever the future held, I knew I had the strength to face it head on.